Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of DEI in 5, the show where we talk about topics, current events, you name it, related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and we try to do it in just 5 minutes. For today's episode, I want to talk about the recent claim from the right, from our good old GOP, that DEI is to blame for the recent collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. Um, in the Wall Street Journal, a author slash investor slash whatever the heck else he claims to be, Andy Kessler, wrote an op-ed about the SVB collapse. And the bulk of that article, it made sense. He talked about things such as, problems with interest rates, IPOs, long-term bonds, etc. But at the very end of this article, in three very brief sentences that we can barely call a paragraph, he fixed his uncultured, privileged, white supremacist fingers, and I said what I said, to write this, and I quote, I'm going to read it. Was there, let me pull it up, was there regulatory failure, question mark, perhaps. SVB was regulated like a bank, but looked more like a money market fund. Then there's this. In its proxy statement, SVB notes that besides 91% of their board being independent and 45% women, they also have one black, one LGBTQ plus, and two veterans. I'm not saying 12 white men would have avoided this mess, but the company may have been distracted by diversity demands. Now, how someone writes an entire article about realistic reasons why this bank collapsed, and then just has the gall, the audacity at the end to spend 3 sentences, not even a full paragraph, making baseless claims about DEI being the reason, diversity being the cause, is beyond me. And as a Vice article called out, and I'll link it below, there is absolutely no evidence to support that SVB was distracted by diversity demands, quote unquote. Of the 11 directors at SVB, 10 were white. And according to their annual reports, their board was less diverse than the top 5 banks in the United States. Not to mention, banks have been notoriously guilty of redlining and perpetuating systemic discrimination. That actually led to the 2008 housing crisis that we saw when black and brown folks were being offered higher risk loans, amongst other things, that caused that whole ordeal to occur. So what are we even saying? Not to mention all of the deals, financial deals that have happened over the years, the issues, other collapses and financial crises that have been at the hands of white men. So again, what are we even saying? And in case you missed it, in 2018, our good friend Trump decided to sign into law the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act, very long-winded, which essentially deregulated the financial industry. So if we're really looking for someone or something to blame, that is actually the foundation, from what I've read from a lot of economists and financial gurus, that kind of laid the foundation. I won't get into details here, but again, we'll link us below so that y'all can dive into it. But right now it just feels like the right is like, oh snap, we messed up. Let's just grab a hold of anything we can blame. How about that DEI thing? And it's just so interesting because when we're talking about DEI, we're talking about a space, an industry at this point that up until recently people had no knowledge of, and respectfully still really don't fully understand what DEI work even entails, nor do they care. But hearing, their favorite politicians that they trust for whatever reason point a finger at DEI, especially for folks that support white supremacy, it makes sense, right? And much like critical race theory, which a few years ago was an academic term that the average American wasn't privy to, again, had very little understanding of, and still, again, have very little understanding of what CRT is, DEI is similarly becoming this sort of catch-all term for anything that challenges people to really think about the racial inequity that is ingrained in just about every system and process within our country. And I mean, talk about timing, trying to blame the SVB collapse on diversity while DeSantis and his friends are over here in Florida trying to having a field day, trying to ban anything relevant to DEI. And then over in Texas, we got Abbott and friends trying to ban anything and everything related to DEI. We've got people that are now anti-ESG. Which is so interesting as well. And, you know, I really hate to even think about where we're going with this and what's to come over the next few months, the next year, 2 years. It's scary to think that we are going to see erasure of decades worth of efforts made in the DEI space. Decades worth. And for some, people are like, oh, there's been little change. There's been a lot of change in the grand scheme of things, a lot of change. And we're going to see significant reversal of that work that so many people have done and that so many people have sacrificed for. And that makes me sad, and it's also terrifying. But yeah, such is life, I guess. I don't even know what to say. I'm at a loss for words this week. There's just so much to take in and so much to digest. But yeah, let me know what you think. Drop a comment below. Join the conversation. Like I said, I'll add some links in the description so y'all can dive a little deeper into what's going on. But otherwise, feel free to like this content if you enjoyed it. Be sure to share it, subscribe for more, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another episode of DEI in 5. Until later, y'all. Bye.